Hi, everyone. Hello. Sorry, just a bit of housekeeping, and I'm echoing, aren't I? So if you haven't been to our office before, just wanted to say where the fire escapes are. So hopefully there'll be no scheduled fire alarm as we're doing this. But if we do have that unlucky event, just go out through the front door that you came in through. If you're new here as well, there's an accessible toilet just around there. But there's also toilets. If you head back past these train carriages, up the steps and then down, there's another set of bathrooms there. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is that there's also a prayer room. So if it's just through there, past the kitchen, and there's a prayer room on your right. So just wanted to do that before we start so everyone knows where they need to go.
Okay. Thank you, Emma. We'll get started in just 1 second. Just some technical things we're trying to sort out. But if you guys are joining us online, welcome to the pitch night for Hackathon for Food Poverty. We're very happy to have you guys here with us. Of course, we have some amazing pitches, so you guys are all in for a treat. And I'm just waiting for the host for tonight, and I'll hand it over to him shortly. And of course, once again, thank you guys here at QX. And yeah, I think we will start soon. Can you guys hear us in the Zoom? Can you give us a thumbs up, please, if you guys are in the meeting room? Yes, they can. And is the video good? Can you guys see us all good? Yep. Okay, cool. So yeah, welcome guys. I'll hand over to the host for tonight, Tahseen, who's one of our co-founders. And yeah, thank you. This slide.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone, and welcome to the pitch night of our 6th hackathon at Deen Developers. My name is Tahseen. I am one of the founding team members at Deen Developers, and I'm a strategy consultant at McKinsey & Company. The story of Deen Developers started in around April 2019, I think. We'll come back to that slide if you go to slide forward. When Ibrahim, who's not here unfortunately, he's in Morocco living the life. He'll come back in a couple of days. I think he's watching online actually, maybe. These are the other Deen Developers on the Zoom. He's always been, and he still is, someone who really cares about impact. If you spend time with him, he's two things. He's very, very nice. He's very, very intense. And if you're not doing something to save the world, he'll make sure by the end of the week, by the end of the conversation, you've got some plan for it. And he had this idea where he was a tech person, but he really wanted to create a platform for people like him that can really come together and use their skills to create change. So he had this idea, let's do a hackathon. And I actually didn't know him at the time. And I reached out to a friend of mine who reached out to me because I was heading up another conversation that could another organization that could provide some funds. I showed up to the hackathon, the very first one we had at UCL. And I fell in love with the concept, and I just made sure I stayed in touch ever since. Muntasir came along, he had the same idea, but he had called it Muslims in Tech. So if you go to muslimsintech.com now, we'll redirect to Deen Developers, Alamin, a bunch of other people, right? And the first hackathon was very, very random. We just invited 20, 30 people to come together. We had no idea. We just said, build something you want to build. But then out of that, some of the legends that are still around today, you know, Omar, who's one of the other co-founders, Shahud, who's here as a judge, Alamin, others, became the bedrock of Deen Developers. So now the core team are the 5 people you'll see on the screen, well, the 5 Power Rangers you'll see on the screen. This was not my idea. This was Ibrahim's idea. And actually we should update this because it's not a good picture. Number one, because it's a bit silly, but number two, because it doesn't capture everyone. There's Uzair, Hannah, Nasreen, Iman, so many others who've done so much for Deen Developers that are not captured here. And it's worth mentioning. We've done a lot over the last couple of years. You can see it on the screen. I'm not going to run through everything. Mainly hackathons, events, startups, accelerator, product building. We had a very, very large impact through the products that we've built. Next page. These are the people we've worked with. Let's just zoom through this because I think we're going to take a long time and I want to get to the pitches. Our mission is effectively creating an environment where we can empower people and unlock people's potential. And we do that through creating a space for innovation. Have we skipped some pages? Okay, we do that through a variety of different things. I think the slides may be in a different order. That's fine, but I'll just walk through them. We can figure out on the way. We do it through a couple of different things. We essentially crowdsource talent. We reach out to people in the community and we say, look, here's something you can do. Here are the skills that you have. What do you want to do to solve that problem? And we do that through a variety of different things. There's hackathons, there's the accelerator program that we've had the first one of, there's community events, there's ideation sessions, innovation sessions. And throughout the course of doing so, we've built a bunch of different products that have had a very large impact. For example, Solar Space, which was launched in the middle of the pandemic and has had over 150,000 bookings across the UK. We've also launched, and it got a shout out from Sadiq Khan, which was nice. We've also launched Sheriff Star, which is turning into food pot and has served over 1,300 meals to people who are in need of them. And have also run the accelerator program where we supported 7 startups, one of whom was actually a graduate from one of our hackathon programs as well, GIFT. And that went really, really well. Some of these have also received funding from the VCs that were present at the pitch night. And community events. Why hackathons? Hackathons were the first thing we did. And I think what's really special about hackathons is as soon as you show up, many people don't know each other, but you immediately gel because everyone is quite like-minded. Everyone's here with a very particular and similar set of skills, although still very diverse. They want to solve a particular problem and they're willing to sacrifice their time and their efforts and their energy to solve that problem. Some of our members, some of our participants, I mean, we gave them a deadline of 12 a.m. last night. What time did they submit? Like 2, 3 a.m., right? We didn't say anything, but they're working very, very hard. It's a learning opportunity. People here are of different levels. Some people are senior developers. Some people here haven't really coded for very long, but they get to learn from one another and really build a network. It's also an opportunity to have fun. It's a very nice office. We've got our friends from Accurex here who've kindly provided us this space. And we've had a lot of fun, I think, along the way. And you get to solve real world problems. We're solving and working on food poverty, and you'll get to see some of the solutions that have been built. And there's a couple of nice quotes. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Said apparently by Muhammad Ali. And I think that's something that really, really resonates with all of us here. And it's really something that we are about. We try to live by this. Something that was said as well was donating your skills is just as important as donating money, which was said by Hasim, who's not famous. I'm not sure who Hasim is. He's one of your brain's friends. But, you know, it's worth mentioning that as well. We have, I guess this is my cue to mention that we have something being recorded. We have a small video media team around. If you want to not be recorded at all, you can just mention to the team and they'll try and avoid you. Otherwise, don't mind if they are just pointing the camera your way. We shared this with the teams before, but just for the benefit of everyone else, the way this will work is we'll have 9 teams, each pitching for about 5 minutes. And then we'll have about 4 or 5 minutes straight after where the judges will ask questions. There'll be a bit of a back and forth for feedback. And I want to hand over to our friends at Accurex who have kindly hosted us at this venue.
Hiya. Hi, I'm Emma. I'm one of the engineering managers here at Accurex. I've had the pleasure of being, I guess, an observer for the last 2 weeks for this hackathon. So some of you asked us, like, Accurex, we've never heard of you before. What do you do? So our vision is to make everyone involved in a patient's healthcare, their communication lead to better care. So basically, we're supporting the NHS in terms of, we go to next slide. Some of you might have got a SMS from your doctor saying, actually, can you send us a photo of this? Or give us some more information about that. That's actually most likely an Accurex product. So we help with video consultations, sending messages, sending communications between your GP and maybe your specialist, but really trying to link up healthcare with the patient in the center of that. So just to give you a few numbers is that we are actually in 98% of the GP practices in England. We send 4 million SMS messages to patients every week through our system. So, and hopefully trying to do more and more to improve patient communication. So that's all, because I want to get to the pictures, as I'm really excited to see what you've been doing. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to Deen Developers admin team. It's been a pleasure working with you. All the attendees, I think you've reminded me why tech is so good by seeing like your dedication over the last few weeks has been really good. And also a big thank you to the Accurex team, because a lot of us were working on weekends or extra hours. So thanks to Eleanor, who led it from the events team, and all the space team. Thanks to Sarah, who's going to be one of the judges tonight, to a few others who came on that first weekend, and also to Hazel, who was helping with a lot of the pictures and doing some coaching yesterday as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Emma. And just to reiterate how grateful we are to Accurex team, who gave up their weekend, 2 weekends in a row, and their Monday evenings as well. And they didn't have to. They're not really getting anything material out of this except for their goodwill. It's also worth mentioning that we also have other sponsors and partners. We have the Aziz Foundation who are sponsoring us today, and also the Spot project where we are partnering with, and Masjid Tawheed as well. Just quickly, we've run through the first 2 parts of the itinerary. We'll now have the presentations for about an hour. So the way it will work is we'll have the team come up in team order, so team 1 to 9, so you know when you're coming up. You'll present for 5 minutes. We'll be very, very strict with the time. Someone has a bell. Who has the bell? We have a bell. It'll sound like this. How will it sound? Let's hear it. There you go. It'll sound something like that. At the back, there'll also be like 1 minute left, 5 minutes left. So a bit of pressure, but we need to be very, very strict because we do want to be out here by 9 p.m. And then we'll have about Q&A, like feedback straight after, right? Each pitch. So 45 minutes again, very, very strict with timing. So make sure your answers are very concise and to the point. And likewise, the questions will be similar. And then we'll close with a conclusion. Judges will convene. They'll have a discussion. We'll share the final outcome. And we'll have about hopefully 10, 15 minutes at the end to mingle, have a chat. And then we'll close for the day. Teams, again, just to remind you, just to save the faff, when it's your turn, log on. The presenter should log on to Zoom. You have the Zoom link. It's in the announcement channel in the Hackathon Slack group. And then take it from there. It will come up on the screen so that we don't have to keep disconnecting computers, and you can be in charge of your demo and everything else. Is that clear? All right. So team 1. You can clap. And this is also a cue for team 2 to start preparing. Get ready to be on Zoom, log on. We can have a very seamless transition. Alamin?
He's been with us from the very beginning.
You leave the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Radi. I'm the UX designer on Team 1. And before we actually begin, I just wanted to point out that today is World Refugee Day. So there's really no better day to present to you our product, Accelerate, which is our product to support charities in delivering aid to refugee camps worldwide. So our problem statement, as you may have already guessed, is focusing on the Lebanon refugee camps. The 2 main issues we wanted to focus on was tracking which families have been given aid, and also being able to identify how recently families have been given aid, because at the moment that's a very difficult thing, and more often than not, families go months on end without receiving the aid that they need. During the week, we carried out some user research. We were able to set up a user research call with a sister in Lebanon who works in a refugee camp, and she gave us some really vital pieces of information. The 4 pieces that we really singled in on was that number 1, their current system for tracking deliveries to families is very manual. They use Microsoft Excel and pen and paper. Now, as you can imagine, this isn't scalable at all. Number 2, all refugees that arrive at the camps, they come with a United Nations ID number. This is provided to them with the army. Now, this was going to be really important in helping us to identify refugee camps within the camp so that we can easily track them on our system. Number 3, we noticed that different families would have different needs. So for example, you'd have families that would have infant children, and so they need baby food packages as well as your basic food packages. And so this is something we really wanted to cater for within our solution. And lastly, we noticed that often families were requesting food whenever they were running low. And this is definitely a situation we really want to avoid, because ideally the onus should be on the charity to identify when a family is running low on food so that they can provide them the support ahead of time. So our solution is really quite simple. What we wanted to do is take that Excel slide and create it into a simple mobile web application that volunteers can use. And the way the mobile application would work would be volunteers can sign up. They'll be able to register new incoming refugees onto the system. They'll be able to identify what the needs are of those refugees, find out their information, how much help they need. And most importantly, they'll be able to track every single delivery that they make. And then moving on to our tech stack on the design side, we used Figma, Chakra UI, and Tailwind CSS. And now I'll pass it over to Omid, who is our front-end developer, joining us online to talk about the rest of our front-end stack.
Thank you, Roddy. From the front-end side, we used React with Next.js to optimize the application. And we used Chakra UI, a component library, to take care of the styling. We also used Redux for the application state management. From the backend side, we used Firebase, a backend as a service product, to take care of authentication and database storage. In fact, our backend engineers used a feature known as Cloud Functions, a serverless offering, so perfect for scalability, to build various endpoints in Node.js and Express. And yeah, now I will pass it on to Khadija, who will take you through a demo of our application.
Bear with us a second.
There you go. I have like a pre-recorded demo for you today, but I'll have the link at the end of the slide, so you'll be able to like try it out yourselves as well. So the landing page, you have like the main landing page there, and then you can log in. You can either log in or you can sign up. So I can try signing up for you. And then you have like at the bottom, this is mainly for the volunteer or the admins to do this. So you have like the charity you're volunteering for, or like the campsite you're like working for. And then you have like a dashboard where you can go to the different pages. This is like the page to like deliver a package. And then you have like a page for searching through for the like refugees to find them. And then you can either search through using the United Nations ID or like their names. You can, and then like there's also a link to like deliver package from the user's profile page, and then you have like the package delivery history, and that's like the most important bit. And you can see like when things were delivered, who delivered them, and the charity that delivered them. And then at the bottom you also have all the information that they use to sign up with. And most of the time the volunteer is going to do the sign up for the registration for the refugee through this page. As you can see, I will quickly slide through this. It's the same thing.
Guys, we do have to.
And then there's also a logout button at the end, and that's
Okay, amazing, brilliant.
Thank you, team. I think first team, they get a bit of leeway, but apologies in advance. We will cut you off next time. There'll be the bell, and I'll stand up. I'll try and look menacing, and they have to stop. Judges, also for you, 5 minutes, strict, and try and be concise both ways.
So first of all, I would like to say it's a very good problem statements that you guys are trying to solve here. And I thought what I really liked was the fact that you're using things that they're already using, things like the United Nations ID, to be using that and kind of including that as a way to search people in the camps. I think that was very unique. And in terms of the tech stack, and obviously that looked really good as well from what I saw. Yeah, over to you guys to say a few words.
Is mic active? Right, guys. I like what I saw. I like the multifaceted approach. So you're tackling multiple problems at the same time. So you mentioned that the existing solutions include Microsoft Excel, right? They're already inputting it. I wonder if your solutions or your technical solutions would handle the complexity of their data capture. So what would they be capturing and what would the end user be consuming at the end? If it's as simple as that, then it looks good. But have you thought about the complexity of data capture going forward in terms of your backend system?
Yeah, so when we did talk to Rowan at the refugee camp, the main problem that she did have was that she wasn't able to kind of identify the last time a refugee got like food packages, and then people would constantly come up to asking for more. So this helps us in that way, in that you can track the last time someone got something and got delivered a package. In terms of like future plans, what we were thinking as well, in terms of tracking, if they don't have that UN code, then you could have like a barcode that you can print off from our system to identify someone. Also, to make it faster as well, you could scan a barcode of a package to assign that to a refugee. So that was her main problem, is just basically being able to track the last time someone got something. And then if we could have notifications in future for like saying this person hasn't got a package in a while, then that could help her keep track of that as well.
Thank you.
Super. And thank you all very much. It's really interesting. You talked about the systems and things like this, and people using this. What do you think? How will these systems be used on day one? So how would you envisage that this would be replaced and scale out physically throughout the refugee camps, and the uptake of that, and how would you be monitoring that on an ongoing basis?
So I don't know if I want someone else to take it, but
I guess day one would just be a case of onboarding the charities. So we'd have to take the existing Excel files that they have and onboard the information that they already have. We can fill in the details for the refugees, and then once we've got the information in place already, that's when we can push it out to the volunteers who'll be on the camps, and they'll ideally, what we want to do is separate an admin space from a volunteer space, so that the admin can have the powers to add refugees, and then the volunteers, they're the only ones who are delivering packages. So once everyone's onboarded, volunteers can then do the actual work in terms of delivering packages to refugees.
Super, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we get another round of applause for team? Great. Team 2. Are team 2 here, or are they all online?
I think majority of my team is online, so I'm a part of team 2.
Okay.
I'm just going to try and jump on the share screen now. Just give me 1 second. Can people see my screen?
Yep.
Can I just send a quick message to Tangia? She's here. She's meant to be.
Hello.
Yeah, cool. Do you want to start us off then?
Yeah, so if you just go to our Google Slides, all the way to the beginning. There we go. Hi, Team 2. So I'm the designer for Team 2, and Arslan, who will be presenting with me, is one of the developers. We came up with Fund My Food Bank, which is about making it easy to support your community. And our whole USP is to donate equally to your local food banks to help those in need. So next slide, please, Arslan. Yeah, so the developers, Horam, Arslan, Ismail, Rumesa. I'm the designer, and our product manager was Farjana. Next slide. So the crisis itself, which we're all aware of, food bank usage has increased dramatically, up to about 81%. People are skipping meals, people are receiving fewer donations in the food banks, and over 2.1 million emergency food parcels were sent recently. So what that clearly shows is that our problem statement, which we'll move on to right now, people want to support their local food banks but have no idea they exist or how to donate funds. So we had a big brainstorm about it and then came up with our solution, which is on the next slide. Oh, Arslan.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, our solution, which had to be a fuss-free and quick way to donate, so no sign-in required by the donors, the option to split the donation across your local food banks, and a map function to show you all your local food banks. The good thing about this was we would factor in the transparency, so donators would always know where their money is going with the food banks. They'll receive monthly updates from the food banks, and that would be very easy for the food bank volunteers themselves to do because it would all be automated. All they would need to do is once a month fill in a very quick, easy feedback form, and we would handle the rest. Next slide. So obviously from the UX researcher side, I did a bit of market research for the competitive analysis. There's Banquet, Trussell Trust, and Independent Food Aid Network. They all do variously similar things, but what our USP is that we can split the donation. It's very easy. There's no long donor user flow, and you automatically just sort of contribute to community, and that just makes it easy and most likely a repetitive action for donors to continuously support their local food banks. Next slide. So this is just what we do in terms of our mission statement. You can see that it's a very user-friendly, efficient platform that will demo to you based on our brand values, which is community, compassion, and care. There's an effect on donators where they feel like they've done something positive. It's been very easy for them, and therefore the impact is they'll repeat it. The effect on the food bank is that they're able to just add their informations very quick and easily on the onboarding process. They then raise their own awareness and destigmatize the whole food bank process in terms of like how to get donations from their local community. And what that means is that they continuously stay funded. Next slide. In terms of the branding and logo design, we went with like a little shopping basket associated with food. The green color represents like nurture and UI color psychology. We made sure that all the colors were accessible to make sure that the users themselves can use them. There's a lot of imagery used. So the heart and the circle represents community and compassion, which we then went on to the next slide with the whole UX and UI design. So the typeface was very legible, modern, very easy to read for all users. We made sure that we stayed branded with the components and the color scheme as well. And then I'm going to hand off to Arslan, who's going to go through the developer side now.
Yeah, so we basically opted in to use like Next.js, TypeScript, Prisma, Postgres, NodeMailer for sending emails, and we've got a couple of other libraries like Stripe for handling the payment, and Chakra UI similar to Team 1 for that modern look and feel. And I guess it's time to show a quick demo. So effectively what we've come up with is this. So you've got your main navigation at the top, some information about, how the, the main kind of things that, or the main kind of issues that go on in food banks and that kind of thing. So we've got a couple different flows. So I'll go through the registration for an actual food bank. So a food bank will come to this kind of form. They'll enter in some details. So for saving time, I'm just gonna put in any old randomness. And then as a part of this flow, we would redirect the food bank to Stripe. So they press this button, they'd get redirected to Stripe. And when they get redirected to Stripe, they have to basically sign up with this platform. And this will allow us to basically split, this will allow us to basically, when we receive donations, split the actual donations and send it off to each food bank that signs up with us. So if they were to sign up, it'd come back to our page, we'd get a little message, sorry, the thing's come in the way, but you get a message saying that you successfully signed up. And if, for example, I was a donator and I wanted to donate, come through to the top here. We get this nice little map. So you can effectively enter an address, or you can, use your location. So I'll use my location. I'm in Manchester, so it'll pop up like some of the local food banks to me, and I'll select them. So I've selected the first 3 that have come up.
You have about 10 seconds left. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, so I'll choose to donate, enter some details. Effectively, when I go to donate, I put in my email, I'll choose a plan for donating. I get redirected to Stripe, and Stripe is the thing that handles all of our actual payments.
Sorry, Team 2, I'm gonna have to cut you short there if that's okay. I don't think it is okay.
No
But, I'll apologize anyway. Was it just the rest of the demo you had to show?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. I think we get the idea, and you can maybe elaborate a bit in the Q&A. So a round of applause for Team 2, please. We'll hand it over to the judges. Actually, my bad. If you don't mind this time, just briefly introducing yourselves, because I don't think we did that.
All right, so I'm Alamin. I think you guys have seen me throughout the weekend because I've been hosting the hackathon. So I'm not a new face. Everyone has seen me. I'm one of the co-founders at Deen Developers, and for my day job, I'm a data scientist.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I am a senior analytics engineer at Amazon and the founder and architect of Quran Hive.
Salam, hello everybody. I'm Sarah. I'm a senior software engineer here at Acrix, and it's a pleasure to be involved in this and part of this hackathon. Thanks you all.
So if I may kickstart off with the first question, I didn't understand the splitting function, and I just wanted to understand a bit more about how that works. And maybe because your demo got cut off, so maybe it's not your fault. So I'll probably give you this airtime from my question to explain a bit more about that. Have you guys implemented the splitting functionality in Stripe, or is it something that's an idea for now? Number one. And number two is, how does it work exactly? Is it a subscription, or is it something that gets automatically split upon the user's preference?
So the Stripe thing, it's not fully set up yet. We're literally just at the last part that needs finishing off, which is the actual splitting of the donation. So how it works is it uses, so when you're on this page specifically and you choose the different food banks, so you got the ability to choose which ones you want to split the donation between. And it's this whole idea of I want to pledge, say, £20 a month, but I want to support all the food banks in my local area. So if you want to do that, we give you the ability to do that. And when the money goes through using like a Stripe subscription to set it up monthly, when the money comes through into our Stripe account, we'll use Stripe Connect to be able to split that money between any food bank that signed up with us. So we'll just effectively redirect the payment to them, to any of the selected food banks that are signed up with us. And that will happen every single month. And then as a part of that, each food bank will have like a form like this that they have to fill out. And when they fill that form out, we have like emails. Oh, I've deleted them. Never mind. We've got emails basically that show that emails that will basically be sent to like, you know, all of the users and that kind of thing to give feedback on like how their money was actually being used and like how effective it was and that kind of thing. And it's the same for like, when a food bank gets a new donation through as well.
Super, thank you very much. On that, you're talking about food banks signing up. Have you considered how that could scale, and how are there any other sources in which you can get more food banks for it to scale more quickly across the country and potentially internationally?
Yeah, so I guess at the moment we're using a separate API to kind of generate, you know, all of these markers. So these aren't actually currently food banks that are signed up with us right now, but this is a really large data set. I think it's a massive data set essentially. So one thing that we could do is just reach out to every single one of these food banks, send them a link for our register page, and you know, add some more information to the homepage and that kind of thing to explain who we are, what we do, that kind of thing. And we send them a link to say, you know, if you want to register with us, here's the link for it. And once we've essentially finished off this full flow and it's, you know, bulletproof essentially, we'll give them the ability to sign up straight through here. We're not actually that far off from being able to launch, and inshallah we've had a chat as a team. Regardless of what happens from here, we're planning to carry on this project anyway. And obviously with us not being that far off, I reckon probably, you know, by the end of the month, something like that, we'll have this at, you know, the stage where it is out there and online. we've started to also add in little things like, for example, shared to Twitter. So when I press this, straight away it goes to Twitter, and it's all set up so that it's ready to be shared out, so that we can get the community involved, basically.
Cool. Thank you, Aslan. Just one last question. I guess you guys talked about how you guys are going to onboard potential food banks, but how do you plan to get this in front of people and get people to start donating and using the platform, essentially?
I guess one thing that we kind of thought about, that social media is a really powerful tool these days. So we want to spread it out to our socials as much as possible, spread it through to like friends and family, that kind of thing. When we do get out there to food banks as well, we could come up with like, flyers and that kind of thing, go into our local food banks and actually spreading the word about it that way. But a couple of us have like signed up for like, initiatives like, Deen developers and that kind of thing. So we're in the right kind of communities to be able to spread this kind of thing. And we think that it could be successful by spreading it through there. It's just a matter of going and doing it at this point.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much, Team 2. Team 3, are we here or are we online? Team 3 is here. Okay.
Set up, ready to go? Yeah, ready to go. All right. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. This is Team 3, also known as Feed the Need. Ironically, we're a technology team, and there's certain things we're still trying to get to grips with here, like certainly presenting what's on the different devices across. Our team, mashallah, amazing, stunning team, designers, machine learning engineers, etc., have all come together to try and put a solution together. This is quite ironic because we're hacking something, but no, we're going to present a solution, an end-to-end solution to a number of problems. Okay, so the problems that we're solving, I've got them up here on the screen for you. It's 3 problem statements from the main problem statements that were shown to us. And what we've highlighted here are the key elements within our solution that we're planning to solve. Okay. What's the impact of what we're solving? The impact of what we're solving is to make or bring about awareness in the local community, right? Be clear about the priorities of what the community needs, and also to reduce wastage via inventory control, because food banks have a lot of food that goes to waste. So our solution will try and reduce that. So what is Feed the Need? I moved on to this very quickly. Feed the Need is a service which is picked up in store, online, or by social media. And the idea is we need to be able to get to people very quickly. They're at the top of the pyramid. So ideally, they would walk into a retail store. At the point of need in a retail store, they would see some display which says, have you remembered your shopping list? And a little empty fridge with a QR code. How about the community shopping list? You click on the QR code, it opens up a web page. That web page gives them a list, a prioritized list, and instructions of what things to add to their basket as they're walking through the store. Once they finish walking through a store, they add those items into the basket at the end. Now, this provides inventory control for the food bank that's actually operating it, as well as some level of control so they are actually shipping out the right products to the distributors of the food banks themselves. We've put up the app screens here just to show you, but we do have a demonstration, which one of the brothers here is going to take care of, inshallah. We've managed to do the one part of the actual solution, which is the donor flow, because I think that's the most impactful part of what we need to do, because that addresses how do we get our message out there that there are food banks out there and that we actually need food to give to the food banks, and the right food, importantly. Okay. And now I'm going to move on to the demo. But before I move on to the demo, I'm just going to say it's not completely finished. There are some elements which we have yet to cover. One of the national retailers that we spoke to for this solution, actually Tesco's, one of the senior people who spoke to Tesco's, helped us along the way by introducing another flow, which is said that if we actually expanded our solution with a backend API, they can actually tie it into their EPOS and sales system. So just before you end up paying online, you could actually put these things in your basket, have them delivered to take to the food bank. So that was a fantastic, bit of progress that we had along the way, and then partnerships and things like that. But I'll move on to the demo because that's a really important part. And then the question should help us elaborate more on the solution as opposed to a singular item that we've actually addressed. Over to Said.
Yep. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you see this? Okay. So this is the donor flow. At the top, the nav bar, you can see you can either donate cash, which takes you to some that, or the others are actually not yet implemented. And then you get like some onboarding. Welcome to your local store. You can donate to your local food bank. Tells you how to do it. But if you're not into reading, it should be obvious from what you're looking at. So your local food bank has requested 99 cereals, a number of pasta, rice, and tomatoes. So let's say you want to add 3 tomatoes this week to your food shop, and number of rice. Let's say you can afford 100 pasta and 2 cereal. And then when you've paid, you say donation complete. And then ideally, should take you to the thank you page. But it does not, does it? Okay, this field is required, obviously. Okay. Why is it required though? Okay.
This is why we don't work with children and animals.
So ignoring that bug, you get this thank you confirmation page. It gives you like a receipt of what you donated. And you can either go back to donate more food, or yeah, that's about it anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making that easy for me to do. Again, just a reminder to teams, please do try your best to be on time, just because it's not fair on the following teams otherwise. Judges, over to you.
Thank you. Getting straight into it. How are you determining the locality? So you mentioned that it would be based on what is really required in the local area, and that is like how are you going to address and get input into your systems about what is actually most in need and not?
So typically what happens is the food banks will have a relationship with businesses. That's quite common. We for our sort of like feedback that we've got, they would actually populate in what the need is and what the user profile typically is of people visiting food banks. So we'd have a little iPad screen or something that gathers very simple form-based user feedback to help us get quality of data back as to what's required. And that will prioritize the list. The idea is to keep the flow so simple from the donor who just opens the page out and just needs to give either money, which is really important to food banks, or the actual items that are really important.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question, and the security engineer in me is bugging at me that, let's just say if I'm a shopper and I just pretend that I've bought 100 pasta packets and I said, yes, I've donated this, and then it will impact the backend system. There's no way to confirm that those purchases have been made unless you plug in with the actual supermarket system. So is it the former or latter?
Absolutely, and it's a good question. I'd treat your sort of like statement as an outlier issue. Generally, people of good faith, they want to give something good and they'll go into a store and give it, but we can actually restrict that via geolocation to make sure they're at the store, the retail store that are actually operating when they're submitting that information. We wanted to reduce friction, so we could have done a sign out process, but really the best app is the one that does the job very simply in 3 clicks. That was our initial brief. We wanted to get it really sharp and quick out.
Thank you for that. My question is simply, how do you expect to manage load if you have a lot of traffic coming in, for example, and you don't have perhaps the items as well? How do you manage to kind of reconcile that?
Sorry, I didn't quite understand. You mean in terms of the items coming in?
Yeah, because I'm imagining because it's like a shopping cart, right? So if someone's basically if there's any issues and there's a lot of load on the system, how do you kind of plan to take care of that?
Well, hopefully, because we know what the products are being placed in the items themselves, they will form a certain size of parcel. So the actual operator of the food bank will know when to go and collect the parcels or the bags. They could collect them once or more than once a day because they can see the volume of inventory coming in, as opposed to waiting until the basket's so full that they couldn't handle it. So it's a self-managing system almost as such to alert them to go and collect.
Thank you.
Great. Jazakallah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Team 4, are you online or? Yeah, okay.
Hello, everyone. So we're team 4, and we decided to work as similar to team 1 on the Lebanon problem, which is to provide aid to families easily. And we decided to give the name of Wahed to our organization because it unites people in the NGO in terms of different stakeholders. Okay, so the main problem, as you can imagine, is that stakeholders cannot seamlessly track aid given to families, refugees, which makes it difficult for the families to receive aid on time. Be it food parcels or just general aid, winter aid gifts, aid gifts. So our hypothesis is that by making it simple to track these families, the right to aid will be provided to them. Yeah, I'm gonna move on to the assumptions with Ahmed.
Thank you, Sibel. So in order to build a user-centric product, we thought about some of the assumptions we were making about the problem itself and also about the user. We assigned some risk values to each assumption, thinking about the impact on the outcome for the user, and then thought of some possible features we could add into our solution to validate those assumptions. Full list of assumptions and features are in the appendix in case anyone is interested. Pass it back to Sybil to talk about the journey map.
Yeah, so one of our main user research approaches was basically to build personas on the direct and indirect users, but also to visualize volunteers' journey map, which is our main focus here. So looking into that, I'm not gonna explain that into detail because of the time limit, but this work has led us to find that the key problems in the delivery process were, first of all, the data transfer bottleneck, then the second one, which basically results in 1.5 hours of productive work lost daily, and then delivery delays, which is 6.5 hours of productive work lost daily, and follow-up communication. So that's after the delivery to be able to communicate with the refugees, and that is also around 6.5 hours. So moving on to the summary. So Wahed is a management database that helps our users seamlessly manage their provision of aid. It has dual benefits for the users, help track past deliveries and plan future deliveries to refugees. And now we're going to show you our demo.
So I'll try to go this rapidly. So here we can see the landing page or website. And what would happen is the worker would log in. We're using React.js with file-based authentication. As you can see here, as the user logs in, they should see a table of users. What can happen is we can add a refugee, and here we can add details of the user, the name, and then the dependents of the user. Also, we can filter through this table. What this table demonstrates is what food packages that need to be provided to that specific family. And at the moment we have it at 2 weeks date time for this. So if we go to the delivery tab, here we can find the list of families. And when it does pop up, we can add a food parcel to that package, to that family. And then that will add a notification to the back end to, like, alert the user in the landing page to say, okay, this family will need a package soon. Yeah. And that's a list of parcels. That's it from me. I'll hand it back to Ahmed.
Sure. So we focused on creating a minimal product that added quick value early. As a result, our current MVP, as you saw, has the kind of the features in the now column. Next, we want to add some features that we feel are kind of a logical next step, ones which we feel quite confident that we can develop quite quickly and can see the immediate value for them. And finally, in kind of later, we have our longer term vision for the product's features, ones which will require a bit more thinking and development effort. Yeah, that's it from us. And kind of we open the floor to any questions.
Over to judges.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. So just, I guess, I really appreciated the fact that you had some stats there. Kind of it showed the impact that this problem has on the people there in the refugee camps. So a quick question is, how do you plan to get this out to the guys on the ground?
Yeah, so this is hosted online, it's live right now, so we can just send the link to the charity. They can make an account and they can start using it right away.
I would like to also add, we should also consider taking into account the code from the UNDP. Yeah, that we will have that in our user table.
Okay. On that point as well, it sounds like you're going to have information about these families on your database, how you ensure people can trust the system in terms of what considerations be considered in terms of security, because this will have data about people.
Yeah, at the moment, we've locked our APIs down so that the user can, the only way to access the data is through an API endpoint, and that has to have the right access tokens passed to it. So in order to get the details of the database, they have to register, log in, and be able to have sufficient permission to the data.
I just wanted to ask for further clarification. So the tracking, the first team that presented said they had a tracking product as well. And they said these charities are currently using kind of Excel or a spreadsheet, maybe Google Sheets. So there's a dashboard that's been presented, but the dashboard looked like a table. Now, why would charities move from, if they're using Excel or a spreadsheet mechanism for 10, 20 years, let's just say, why would they pivot over to this? What's special? Maybe guide me through a scenario. What's special about the tracking, let's say, on this?
This table changes based on the notification that needs to be provided within the 2 weeks. So it prevents like duplication, like say, for example, you have an Excel sheet, you could
Sorry,
actually...
if you can put your mic.
Oh, sorry, yeah. You could prevent like giving families more package than they need. The table changes based on like the notification for that family. So like, say that family needs the package in 2 weeks time. We know, okay, we add the package, and then when we add a package to that family, the notification date for that family also updates. So then you shouldn't see that family on that table.
I would also like to add that we also envision that we would like to create another page, which basically is very similar to Deliveroo in the sense that it's very visual for volunteers. so they can visualize their timeline and get notifications based on that. So that's the difference between the Excel spreadsheet and the other and our solution database. And also the data will be seamless, so it's going to be accessible to emirs, to all stakeholders, volunteers, and the head of logistics, who is Rawand. And another thing that we're also considering is potentially that could also lead into a data analytics project to basically predict the next, kind of classify our refugees based on specific case scenarios. Rawand mentioned that there is like a prioritization to that. So that will definitely save time in terms of like having a calendar that directly predicts when is the next delivery day. But that is, of course, a future plan of ours.
Thank you. Halfway through, team 5. Are team 5 here in person? I think people at the back can't hear very well, so reminder to speak into the mic as clearly as you can. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. All right, I'll speak loudly. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Ali. I am from team 5 and we're called Voluntary, and I'll explain the product in a moment. So team 5, here we are, 6 of us in the team, from designers to developers. And the problem that we've taken for us to kind of focus on was the volunteering. So what we thought is, how do we make communication between the volunteers and the charity food banks kind of a lot more streamlined? I'm just gonna summarize here. Okay. So we believe that by simplifying the volunteer scheduling experience, food banks and charities will be able to effectively manage a robust pipeline of motivated and reliable volunteers. So we've decided to do a lot of research. We've spoken to a number of food banks, and on our online research, what we actually ended up doing is 2 things. We've recognized that there are a lot of established directories. So a lot of these charities are already using a lot of these directories, like the Trussell Trust. Masjid Tawheed has their own website, so that's how they manage. So they manage in their own site already. And then to be able to do all the other things, they're using basic tools like, spreadsheets and WhatsApp to be able to manage the volunteer experience. And the case study that we've took is Masjid Tawheed, which is not too far from me. And just to kind of give you an overview of their volunteering experience, it happens every Sunday between 11:30 to 1:30, and they have about 30 volunteers in their database, and they need 10 volunteers and 5 minimum for the food bank to be able to run efficiently. The key points that they mention is, the key pain points where there could be sometimes last minute dropouts, there could be scheduling mismanagement or misalignment, and manual comms and reminders that need to happen on a regular basis. So here, just kind of gives you like a workflow of what happens. So the volunteers get all, either they can do word of mouth or they need to fill in this form. Somebody will contact you, you will agree, and then you'll be put on a spreadsheet, and then you can see volunteers 1 to 10. And then a few days before, you get a message which says, oh, next week, these number of people are on standby. And then randomly a day before, someone says, oh, I'm unavailable. So then the search starts again, and then they have to find a replacement. So that's where Volunteer comes in, that product that we created. And our vision is to empower charity organization with plug and play products to streamline operations and leave them with more time to support community. And what we're saying is here, we don't want to build them a new site or a new dashboard or a new platform they need to manage. We just want to give them the key features that they need so they can plug to their existing systems. And that's it. Just to kind of summarize, yeah, so if it's just kind of move to the tech, and then Noor can maybe just quickly go with that, if it's there. Yeah, so the front end, Noor, are you there?
I'll be talking about the front end. Yeah, so we chose React and React, TypeScript, and Bootstrap to make a nice responsive front end, and Firebase will be most of our back end. So we store our data in the Firestore and have authentication using Firebase. And that's it for me. Noor.
So we're going to do a quick run through of the demo. So when you first load the application, we have this hosted link. You come into the create account page. Over here, you can create organization email, name, and password, and then you can register through there. Once you're registered, you then come into login. I've already previously registered, so I'm just going to use the credentials that I've used previously. So once you log in, you come into this page. So this is our dashboard. What we have on the top is our navbar. We have the name of the actual organization, and on the left we have 3 main features. So the first feature is to create an event. So the idea behind creating an event is you can actually create an event for the day that you're actually trying to get volunteers in. Volunteers of different types as well. So you can enter a name for the event, you can enter a description, you can enter the location of the event, and you can also enter the event date. Just to save us a bit of time, I'm gonna quickly ignore this. Once you do that, you then come over to here and then you see the events that you've created. So as you can see, you have your name, you have your description, all of them must be on time, and you also have the date. So the idea behind this is once you create an event, you then have a link, and what this link would do is it would allow you to sort of publish this link, share it across different pages, different places. You can send it to people's emails, and it would just be a quick overview of what the different events that are taking place. So if you see over here where we're scrolling horizontally, these are the different events that are taking place. These are the different dates for the events that are taking place and so forth. And then you have your contact form over here. And last but not least, once you sign up to those, you then come into view volunteers, and then you see the list of people that have volunteered.
All right, just to kind of finish up quickly then, I'll go back to my slide, which is somewhere here. Yep, and then I'll share. Just to kind of finish up, we've done a demo. So for the future, we want to go back to last minute dropouts. How do we... Ooh. All right.
Go on, finish your sentence.
All I was going to say is just for the future, essentially what we want to do is we want to make it like a formalized for the organizations. And then what we want to start to do is to have a little dashboard and then count for the volunteers so that we can do like gamification, self-service, notification as reminders to say, here are your volunteers.
Sorry, bro. As a sentence. Judges.
So I'll start off. Just a comment. I really like how you make it very low barrier to entry for the volunteers, so that I'm assuming you guys are using SMS, right, to contact volunteers.
Yeah. So that's going to be the future. So the volunteers or the database would be organization managed on their dashboard, but the volunteers will also have access to their own account so that they can see the time management for them. So if you go back to here, you can see as a volunteer, I can manage my own calendar, because at the moment they enforce times on you, but if you're not available, what are you going to do? So the point behind this is I can manage mine and just tell you that's when I'm available. And the goal is, as a metric, we can reduce dropout rates, which is what happens right now. And that was the whole idea. And then just to kind of make it a bit more fun, the gamification here says hours volunteered this month. So it kind of gives me that incentive so that I can maybe do a lot more volunteering. And yeah, so that's, and then just a final thing for the volunteer, reminders. I've already mentioned that one. And then if someone drops out, then what we do is we do like a dropout replacement for them, basically. So automatically find somebody else. I'm trying to squeeze in a lot. Thank you.
I just got a final question, actually. About the dropouts. I thought that was a very interesting idea. It's actually how the airline industry deals with dropouts of passengers. They overbook on purpose. So instead of, have you guys thought about maybe integrating like a forecast model into identifying certain events, how many dropouts there are, how many volunteers tend to happen? So it kind of a reverse feedback loop. So not only did this event have volunteers, but this is how many volunteers showed up. Then you can have that into a model where you can predict how many to overbook. So you need 5 volunteers, but you're purposely asking for 8 because you know there's a high likelihood of 2, 3 dropping out. That's number 1. Number 2 is, actually, let's just keep to number 1.
All right, what you just said is very fancy. So to be able to predict people's availability, but maybe when we start to collect a lot of this data going forward, then we can start to predict some of these behaviors. But the other thing is to be able to show the, maybe a ratings for some of these volunteers so that maybe they don't ask certain volunteers to come back again. So, but the more data we collect and we start to do, then we can start to see, we can predict it in the future. Any more?
Yes, and you mentioned about all of these features and things. If we were to share this today and tomorrow, what would be the key aspect that would benefit the teams right now on the ground?
As in for this particular mosque?
Yeah.
I think from day one, I think the whole idea is what we've just built. All we need to do is just give them a link and then they can embed it to the existing sites. Our job was not to get them to manage another platform, another data somewhere else, is to plug and play straight away, and that's it. And then as soon as they have that, they can start collecting the database of users, and then we can start enabling these features like these SMS reminders, basically. So for us, it's just plug and play. We're not building any additional platform. It's just key new features that they need that they can use straight away, basically.
Super. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Team, am I counting right? 6?
All right, Assalamu alaikum. So we'll get started. So my name is Osman and I'm representing team 6. So our solution today, it's called Food to Bank. It's an easy like an inventory management for food banks. So if I move forward, we'll just go with the team. So here's a quick summary of a team. And moving forward, let's talk about the problem statement. So when we were at the hackathon and we spoke to a lot of people around there, and we understood that like the big problem is not having multiple features or fancy application where you could do a lot of things. The big problem that the food banks are currently experiencing is the way they can manage their inventory. So if someone gets 10 cans of beans or diapers or anything, there's no way they can kind of instantly take a note of it. They have to go to a spreadsheet, type in the details, and then save the information. Now, they've been doing this traditional way, but it's difficult to maintain that. And that's the big problem. So since everyone's working on a volunteer position there at food banks, no one really has the time to manually enter that information. So our solution that we're pitching today is to simplify that process where you can scan an item and add it to your inventory. And we're not going to, at this stage, we're going to keep it extremely simple. We'll let you generate your own QR codes. Like if you've got a QR code for toiletries, QR code for perishable items, QR code for, like clothes and stuff. So just have a set of 5 QR codes and then scan that. Automatically, you have an option to add the information in there. And once you do it for the first time, automatically, it will keep remembering that information for that QR code. And when you scan it again, it will just add another line item into the system. So keeping it extremely simple. And this is the workflow that we're going to follow. I'm going to skip from on the slide. I'll show you the actual workflow in the live demo, but this is how it would work. And here are a few screenshots of the actual app, how it would work. So right now, as you can see, we're trying to scan a Pringles box. We want to keep it linked with APIs, at the same time manual QR codes. And then once you add it, you start building your repository. So this is all what you would see in the actual demo. And the next version that you would expect that, once we have this version out, what we'll do is we plan to add and make it a bigger application, like have dashboards, connect to external APIs, internal QR code generator, ability to collect donations, run campaigns, and have a native app for iOS and Android. So with that, I'll let my team member share a screen and show you the actual product. So Musab, over to you.
Thanks, Usman. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Just going to try and share the screen from my phone here. Okay, looks like that's coming through. Okay, so we built a very simple demo to show how this works. So imagine you're a food bank and you've got some shelves of items, and you've labeled the shelves with the QR code as Usman described. So you've got to, let's say, your soup, and you take a photo of the QR code. The first time you do it, the system goes, well, you don't have soup in, okay, resume here. You don't have soup in the system, so I'm going to just type in soup. It's part of a food cupboard, and I'm going to say I have whatever 5 cans of soup, and hit submit. Then the next time I go back, I can scan the soup again, and it'll come up. It's come up from a database, and you can just increment the quantity and update it. And then if I go back to here, I've got this inventory screen that shows me all my items, and at the bottom there is the soup that we just added with 8 items. So it's very simple, trying to be as frictionless as possible, just get you into the app and start adding items and managing your inventory. Yeah, the backend's written in FastAPI with SQLite database underpinning that, and the front end is just written in Streamlit in Python for now.
Yeah, and
It's all live, and you're welcome to go try it out.
Yeah, and a couple of items to keep in mind. What we're trying to do is we're solving the core problem. I mean, managing the inventory, making the page look fancy, that everything that can be done secondary. The main thing was getting the item to the list, and that's what we are solving. And this is based on the feedback from live food banks. When we spoke to Brother Jawad, when he was there and his team member, they said, this is exactly what we want. We want to simplify our workload. We don't really have anyone sitting down there with spreadsheets and adding data into it. So if you can simplify that, that's what we want. And that's what we have today. And as I said, the plan for tomorrow, when we inshallah release the app, it would be to add fancy widgets, database, like a dashboard that will give you clear information on a visual, on a full web browser, send out notifications, connect to Slack for collecting donations and everything. So big plans ahead, but inshallah, as I said, the first plan was to get the data into it, and that's what we've done. And yeah, looking forward to extend it further.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yep, over to judges.
Okay, super. So you talked about adding those QR codes to this. Do you envisage any level of friction and things, because you might need to generate these QR codes from scratch and keeping track of them? If you can imagine store cupboards, things moving around, things falling around. What is the practicality of actually creating and using these? So I think the app is fantastic, but what does that actually look like on the ground using this?
So on the technical side, I mean, there are APIs from the food bank and food APIs across Europe that let you scan with the actual information. So that information can be extremely accurate. However, what we also want to do is keep it as a manual option as well, where you don't have a QR code. Like someone donates like a bag of potatoes or tomatoes, it's not going to have a QR code. So at that stage, you can just generate a QR code, stick it on a packet, scan that QR code, manually add the entry, and that would work as well. So we're going to keep the app fluid enough where you can add or maintain the database according to your requirements. And in the end, you just want to make sure when the volunteers or the food banks, they look at the spreadsheet, instead of the spreadsheet, when they look at the actual app, they can instantly see what's available and what's going down. And in future, the other feature that we had also thought of was people can reserve items, and then we can issue a QR code to them when they come to the actual food bank, scan the QR code, take your box, and then automatically the items get reduced from the inventory. So yeah, inshallah, that's how the whole QR code ecosystem would fit in.
Thank you.
Okay.
So from me, of course, really good to see that you're using existing kind of solutions with the QR code instead of creating a new kind of layer. Just a question for the future. So have you got, I know because this is a team of data people, data engineers, and we have also machine learning engineers. Does computer vision have kind of a place in this solution?
Yeah, I think so. It would be really cool to extend this with computer vision. We just didn't have time in the hackathon.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all from us. Shaur?
No questions from me. I had actually had the same question as the first question that was asked, so that suffice.
All right, great. All right, Jazakallah, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Team 6. Team 7. We have 9 teams, by the way, in case you're trying to keep track.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Abdullah and joined by Abbas and Theo online. We are Group 7, and we want to present our solution to the hackathon at the table. Next slide, please. So I'll start by introducing the problem domain. We saw all the problem statements and we didn't really want to tackle any of them, really. So we came up with something different because we saw food poverty as a community issue. You know, me living in my street, I could be eating 3 meals a day and having leftovers, but I don't know if that's the case for my neighbor. And that's the result of a broken community. So we also saw a small stigma around poverty being extremely isolating. So along with all the negative detriments of malnourishment and food poverty, you then also have a mental health crisis because people are feeling isolated from their communities, they're feeling lonely. And that isolation can then prevent social mobility. And so then we decided to come up with a solution at the table, which is a platform tackling food poverty through community building. So community members can host each other. So I might have a seat at the table and decide, you know what, I want to host someone in my local community. Similarly, someone in the local community may need a meal. And so they log onto the app, they see all the meals in their area, and they decide to connect with me, and we share some food. So you eat with your community. It helps to build a network and a support system. And we believe that that aggregation effect will help rebuild communities and really start to tackle not just food poverty and alleviate that, but deeper social issues. Coming on to the tech stack. So Theo was our UI UX designer. He used Figma to come up with all of our screens. We decided to use React Native because we wanted to build a mobile app. We saw that as that being the most accessible technology that people could jump on very, very easily. And then we abstracted the backend away using Firebase. So I'll pass off to Abbas to go through a small demo.
So one of the reasons we wanted to use React Native was so that we can make it an iOS and Android app. And so I'll go through the user flow. So there's 2 flows. There's one for hosts. So if you want to host a meal, if you have some leftovers or you just want to meet some new people. And then the other is to actually be able to find someone. So for an MVP, we wanted to just make people be aware if they have a seat at the table. So I will sign in here with a host account. Oops, not a very secure password. Okay. And then so I can see my profile. So I'll have my location. This will be taken from the phone's location. And then on my bio, I can have some tags to say what my dietary requirements might be. So that will be added if I press space there. Okay, we'll leave that for now. And so we can go back to our main page. And so here I can host a meal. So for example, okay, that shouldn't be happening. Okay, I'm gonna have to restart this. So as you can see, it's not exactly ready to be deployed, but so in the meantime, we can have a look at our landing page. So you can see our main aim is to kind of bring everyone to an equal footing by having them all eat at the same table. So you can meet people in your neighborhood, share a meal with them, and just build your community generally. So you can be a host, invite someone to your home and share a meal with them, or you can be a guest. And it's not just for homes. So we recognize that some people might not be completely comfortable letting a complete stranger into their house, but it can also be used for outdoor events. So maybe at a park or something like that.
We've got like 30 seconds, by the way.
Okay, so I'll just show the ability to host a meal. Okay, I don't know why that's gone wrong. Okay, we won't be able to show you that, but we will show you what it would look like. So I'll hand over to Theo for that.
Yes, what Abbas is showing now is the flow of signing in. We're using sort of enable location to get the user's location to show them meals in the area. And then across here, you've got the landing screen showing them different meals that people are offering in the area. The profile that comes up when someone's clicked on a meal, and they can press the button at the top to request a meal. So the profile page with the tag shown at the bottom there. And then you've got the 2 screens across here for the offers that people have sent out, the requests that people have sent out on the offers. And then people are able to view the guest profile and approve them as a guest on the final screen if you just scroll a bit further along. So yeah,
I think that's good there.
Okay.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Sorry about the demo. Demos are sentient beings, they know when you're presenting to crash, but it happens. You can't have a demo without it crashing a few times. I'm sure the judges won't be too harsh about that. Over to you.
So you mentioned the stigma of food poverty at the start. How does this product tackle that? Because you have hosts and guests. Now, if a guest is struggling with poverty, would they want to download an app, sign up for it, and then market themselves as needing a meal? How does the product tackle that? Because you put your finger on a good problem statement that's not been presented among the problem statements, but I don't see how the product tackles that.
No, it's a very good question. Abbas, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we kind of saw the food poverty part as secondary to community building. So on the actual app, there's no kind of checkboxes or anything that actually check if you have a certain income level or anything like that. Anyone can sign up to be hosted and anyone can sign up to be a host. So as a user, you can host a meal today and tomorrow you might be at someone else's house. So the aim is to kind of build communities together, and it's there's kind of nothing around actually knowing like if someone what their income is or anything like that. But so you can also build communities with it as well. So for example, if you meet someone in your local community, they might have a job if you don't have one, things like that. So that's our main aim.
And just to back that up, it's similar to how Airbnb was viewed 10 years ago. You think someone who's just sleeping on someone's couch, a poor person can't afford to live somewhere. But look at Airbnb now. It's very, very normal. It's disrupting the hotels industry. So that's how we view this solution.
I like it. Thank you.
For me, first of all, I really love your name. I think your name is pretty much spot on in terms of what you guys are doing here. Just a quick one. So in terms of uniqueness, do you guys know of any other competitors or anyone else who's doing something similar?
Yeah, so those competitors would be, say, Olio, which are very similar, but they're slightly different in that they're more focused on food waste. So someone could say, I have spare, I have an extra loaf of bread and I don't want to go to waste. So let me throw that up on the app and then someone can see. So that's probably the most similar solution. But this, again, was more about community building than it was solving a food waste issue or a food poverty issue. But no, we definitely did take inspiration from similar kind of apps.
So I just want to add in, I think we want to start with sort of meals, but in the long term, we want to expand to wider community issues. So at the table becomes a platform that facilitates just communities helping each other in general issues.
Thank you all very much. This sounds really interesting. I'm really interested in how can we actually realize what the impact is? Okay, if we've got lots of people signing up and things like this, how would you track the impact related to food poverty? You mentioned community building as well. Obviously, I'm assuming more users, more people hosting, but can we differentiate between it? Is it just going to be very affluent supper clubs that are happening, or is that actually going to be something that can impact the people who need these the most?
That's a very good question. Abbas?
So I guess because it's based on location, so the meals in your area are based on location, so we'd have data on what kind of locales this is being used in. So if it's being used in a deprived area, for example, you could kind of interpret that it's being used to kind of help alleviate food poverty. But there is nothing in the app to prevent affluent people from using it. So we want to kind of build a community in all different levels of society and bring people together. And in terms of other data, I guess we could track repeat users, because if someone's, let's say, regularly, like once a week, hosting people in their area, or someone's regularly once a week, for example, going to a different person's house, then that's a good sign showing that the app is actually working and people are using it in their day-to-day life.
I think one of the things we discussed as well is in sort of the launch of the app, we'd like to host sort of big community events, maybe in public spaces,
that would also help us sort of target these areas where people may be suffering from food poverty as well.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, team 7. Team 8, penultimate team.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. I'm Mohammed. I worked as a front-end developer in this hackathon. I will hand over to Tanzil, who's joining us online, and he will walk you through our presentation.
Cool. Can everyone see the screen? Right. Sorry, having some technical issues.
Hello, Tanzil?
Yep, I'm here. For some reason, can someone play the slides for some reason?
We can see the screen.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, it's not up right now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry, having some technical issues. That's all. So yeah, salam everyone. We are team 8. So our developers were Amin, Muhammad, Sharia, Suleiman. Our UX UI designer was Hassam, and I'm the project manager, Tanzil. So in terms of the problem statement we wish to address, we felt that the main statement we wanted to address was identifying beneficiaries to effectively distribute and tailor items for family needs. The reason we chose this particular topic is because we felt it was important for families to receive the support they need. However, as it's been highlighted by various food banks in London as well as outside of London, it can be difficult for families to communicate their needs with food banks, and in turn, food banks may find it difficult to address the needs of multiple individuals and their families. In order to address this, our mission is to create an automated line of communication between food banks, beneficiaries, suppliers, in order to enable the distribution of products in a manner which reduces workload for all parties. Organizations such as, representing beneficiaries such as schools, places of worship, community centers, can request support from food banks based on the needs of people who require aid from food banks. Food banks in turn are notified about who needs help and can view and update how the request has been processed. And the solution we've come up with is Food and Flow. So in terms of Food and Flow, currently it's got 2 flows. So the beneficiary flow as well as the food bank flow. So once a beneficiary has essentially signed up and created an account, let's just say Bronson Manor, they can logged in, they can enter the number.
Tanzil, we can't see that.
Oh, sorry. Used to sharing on Teams, so apologies. Okay, React, yeah. Can you see the React app now?
Yeah, we see now.
Okay, so once a beneficiary has logged in, I'll just put random name. Essentially, the beneficiary side will be able to say the number of people who need support, the type of help they need, as well as whether, what the order status is and whether they've received it. In terms of the, in terms of the food bank side, after you've created an account and logged in, you'll be able to see the name of the individuals, the
contact information, the number of people who require help, as well as the items which they require, as well as the type of organization. In terms of future planning for the app, we hope to include enhanced geolocation. So when a beneficiary signs on to the app, onto the service, they can find whatever the local food banks are. It'll display the name, contact information of the food bank, the distance it is to the beneficiaries, as well as what services they provide, as multiple food banks can provide additional services like neonatal care and clothing. On top of that, we hope to include some form of stock management, so food banks can keep tabs on what items they have in stock. They can use historical data to see how many items are used on a regular basis and can plan for the future to see how many items they may need in busy months and less busy months. So winter tends to be more busy than summer, for example, in terms of more food required. And if certain stock items run low, food banks will be alerted and can either order items from supplier or the app can send an automated
Tanzil, we're being shut down.
Oh, sure. Yeah, thanks for that. And sorry for technical issues.
Sorry to shut you down, but hopefully you'll get a chance in the Q&A.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on the product. Can you explain what the product does again? And you mentioned on your first slide that your key aim is to identify beneficiaries, but then the rest of the presentation assumed you already know who the beneficiaries are. So what does the product do to identify beneficiaries?
Okay, so essentially, I think we would like to focus on that, but what the product does mostly currently is we're looking for organizations who are helping to distribute food packages, but not to individuals, but to other organizations. Yeah, so currently we're working with Spot Project, who are doing a similar thing with schools, but we tried to make it a general app, so we'd work with other organizations that want to distribute to other places, like mosques, for example, or other kind of charities as well.
Okay, great. And in terms of this, how would you consider adoption then? You talked about an example of this being used let's say a competitor or a similar product before elsewhere. Let's say this week, what can be used, or what's the next step?
Do you mean what functionality does the app have currently?
Yeah, in terms of the impact, the immediate impact that this can have.
Well, yeah, I think it would help a lot with the organization, because we actually do have a functioning like a system where the organization can see requests coming in. That's more like our current version. You saw the long-term support version here. Well, we do have a version that does work. We weren't able to show it here today. And it would basically just help these organizations manage what needs they have. And we also wanted to, in the future, implement a stock system so they can compare their stock with what needs the community has and try and make a balance, essentially.
I don't have any questions, but I guess I just wanted to mention to everyone, because I followed their journey, right? This team's journey as well. They're all university students, right? Except for Tanzil. So please give these guys a round of applause for what they've done.
Thank you, teammate. Team 9 and last team.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Saving best till last. Can everyone see that? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So assalamu alaikum, I'm Aisha and our product is the Pantry People. So our team consisted of myself as PM, Sarah as the UX designer, and Husnain and Madiha as our developers. Unfortunately, we lost 2 of our front-end developers before the week started. They didn't die or anything, they just dropped out. Yeah. So our problem statements. So we spent a lot of time last week going back and forth with the problem statements and found ourselves discussing these 3 problems in depth. So food banks didn't know their beneficiaries well, and since nothing is tracked, it was difficult to know what needed to be restocked and who had already been given aid. So we kept hitting a core issue with this though, and it was that we were missing that all important request data. So the next step to our solution was exploring what would be the most meaningful and impactful way to collect this data. And after doing some research into both food banks and its users, we kind of got an understanding of how things worked and the issues that people were facing day to day. So for volunteers, they had issues putting together parcels in real time, as many people were dropping at around the same time to use their food bank vouchers, given that a lot of people, given that the food banks have got very short opening hours, they'd have to estimate as well for the next week what stock they needed. For receivers, non-food items such as toothpaste and baby wipes aren't always readily available because most of it is usually just food. So people found themselves not able to pick up whatever they needed. So this was our solution. The idea is to allow a food bank to submit a request list for the upcoming week. Then any food bank nearby will be able to accept that incoming list. So food banks now have the time to fulfill that order and source any products they might need, such as sanitary pads, toilet rolls, etc. And when all the items have been assembled, the beneficiary will be notified that the items are ready to pick up and they can drop by and collect everything nice and quickly. In terms of designs, Sarah went down the route of choosing a combination of complementing bold colours to incite positivity, and the choice of fonts and symbols kept the UI easy to manage and intuitive. So I'll now hand over to Hussein, who'll give us a walkthrough of the product and the structure.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I've just taken the safer and some may call it lazier approach and just pre-recorded my demo so there are no issues. So I'm just going to share that with everyone. Can everyone see that? Okay, so let's do a quick demo of the platform. So right now, as you can see, I'm on the login page, and first we're going to sign up as a beneficiary. So I'm going to enter my name, last name, the usual stuff, and here I can enter my full postcode, or I can just enter an out code as it's called. So I'm going to press register. Okay, press register, and as you can see, it's already done an address lookup. It uses a couple of APIs for reliability, and here we have the coordinates and some more details. Now it's also pulled through a list of items that are requestable. These are the items that you see over here. Now currently it's quite short, and one of the plans for the future is to use an external API to get a list of most requested items. Then we're going to store them in our own database, and eventually, based on the data that we collect, the hope is that we can just create a set of curated lists that people can just pick from rather than having to create one manually like this. But for now, we can just go through this. We can also type, and then I'm going to submit this list. Okay, so now we have a list over here. Okay, so I'm going to click here, register as a food bank at test.com, test food bank, and then postcode. Now I'm going to enter a different postcode just to show you something. And I register on cool. And as you can see, there's no lists over here, even though we created one over here. And the reason for that is we're using a different postcode. So the default radius that we have is 3 miles. And if you go into the database and have a look at the lists that we've created, this is the latest one that we've created. This is the radius. It's created this polygon on the map, and only the food banks that fall within this range will be able to pick up on this list and actually fulfill it. That's not the case here. So just to show you, I'm just going to sign out again. I'm going to create another account, and here I'm going to use the same postcode as food bank. Now if I register, create a new list, I'm going to refresh, and there we go. We have a list over here. Summary. This is the information that we showed you the food bank. Now if I click on pickup, this moves from that section to this, and this is the endpoint that we're using. Now, as you might have noticed, that the name of the list has also changed. Before it was just list number 3, but now it's tests list. That's the first name of the person who requested it. That's because when a food bank accepts a request, only then they're able to see a person's details. Now the next step for this would be to move it to the third columns when it's ready. So I'm going to press ready for collection, and there we go. can see the updates over here too. So fulfilled, it's in fulfilled stage, so I can just go and collect it from this food bank over here. That's all for now. We have quite a few ambitious goals for this project in the future. One of them is, for example, working on the code to make it more easily extensible. The idea is to allow for plugins to be created that add a lot more functionality to the platform. You can read more about some of the future plans in the README for the GitHub repo. Okay, so that's all from me. Any questions?
Sorry, Hussein. Time's up, unfortunately. I can't argue with a pre-recorded person, so I waited for you to come back.
Yeah, apologies for that.
No worries, it's all right. Over to the judges.
Yeah, so for me, no questions, but just one thing. This is the only team that's fully remote. So well done, guys, for getting here with the product that you guys have showed us. Just one thing, I guess you guys could also include in the roadmap. It's around personalization and recommendation. So these are kind of two concepts in in the data space that are quite common when it comes to like recommending products and such. But yeah, no questions from me, just a comment.
Thank you.
I have a question about the possible bottlenecks. So this is kind of requiring food banks to possibly become logistic or highly logistic companies where every individual is submitting a list and the food bank has a responsibility to fulfill it. So this is like an Amazon-esque type operation. How do you plan to scale that level of complexity when large logistic companies even struggle with that day to day? Now, it might be a volume issue where you're accepting on a 20, 30 odd requests, but you're still having to fulfill it on an individual basis.
Yeah, so the idea was because multiple food banks in the area can see the list in the area, they can pick and choose, what they want to pick up. In terms of like people sending in lists and things like that, we were going to try to onboard people through maybe a partnership with the Citizens Advice Bureau. So they usually are the people who direct people to food banks. So they could be the people directing them to just submit a list. So just because, they don't need to spend time like traveling to the food bank, not knowing if their items are there. Don't know if that answers your question.
Halfway.
Yeah, if I may add to that. So what happens is we have each list has a radius, set radius. So only food banks falling in that radius will be able to pick up those lists. Also, we're going to have a restriction on how many lists a beneficiary can create. So maybe once a week they can push their list and have it fulfilled. So you can't have people from all over the country submitting lists to a specific food bank. It's not directed to any specific food bank. It's just whoever can pick it up and can fulfill it.
Thank you. On that point then, how do the system ensure that, let's say, one feedback isn't assuming that others will pick it up and then actually nobody's actually able to fulfill your whole range of requests?
I think down the line, we want to have like a notification system where if, say, a ticket has been sat in the queue for maybe like 2 to 3 days, because obviously we've given everyone a week time limit. If it's sat around for 2 to 3 days, it can kind of notify all the food banks in the area that this one is still waiting. Is someone able to pick it up?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. Great.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Team 9, and to all of the teams. That brings us to a close of the presentations. Again, would like to thank the teams for the amazing work that they've done. Again, they built this all in just 2 days. I'm the least technical person in the Deen developers team, so I'm very easily inspired by this. I always feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I can't code to save my life. So this is always very inspiring. I'm sure it's the same for you. What we'll do now is we'll give 5 minutes enough to discuss, do you think? Yeah, I think it's enough. 5 to 10 minutes or so. 10? Yeah. Oh, fine. Let's do that then. Let's take 10 minutes. In the 10 minutes, the judges will discuss. They'll find 5 minutes to discuss. Participants, you can take a break. You can discuss with one another. You can reach out to the different teams and ask your own questions. I think there's still some pizza lying around and some drinks and whatnot. So take your time. We'll come back in about 10 minutes.
And they grab food and speak to one another?
Grab food, whatever you need to do. You can pray.
Yeah.
And then in about 10 minutes, we'll come back. The judges will share a few words and we'll give the final verdict.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go away from the next.
Salam, hello everyone. If I can encourage everyone to start taking seats again, we're going to resume and close in a few moments. I'm going to ask you to just share general reflections and words and feedback. Can I start? However you want, yeah, you can. I'll just introduce you at the front. Yeah. Just share some whatever you got, and then get my mic. I'll take it. I'll take it to the front. We're going to resume in about 30 seconds. If you can please come and take your seats. Yes, please. You got a mic? No. I'll hand this over. I'll hand it over to you in a sec. Okay, thank you again. First and foremost to the Accurex team and our sponsors, Aziz Foundation and Spot Project, for generously sponsoring the hackathon and being here as well with us tonight. Second, to all of you for patiently listening through and enjoying all of the pitches. I'm sure you were as impressed as I was and the judges were. And of course to the teams and the judges for generously giving your time. I'm going to hand over to the judges. They'll share a few words. And then most importantly, who won? But we have to say we're all winners, so it's okay.
Yeah, so Assalamu alaikum. I must say it's very tough to be in that position. Of course, I can imagine how tough it was for you guys, but you guys made it look very easy. So well done to all of you guys. So just a few thoughts from me, a few comments. Of course, I've seen you guys from day one developing your ideas, and I've seen the journeys you guys have been through, the challenges that you guys have faced. And yeah, like Haseen said, I know it's very cliche, but everyone is a winner. And it was tough for me to influence the judges. I shared some thoughts, but I let them kind of pick the winners, basically. So yeah, that's all from me. Of course, well done to all of you guys, and over to the judges.
Super, thank you all. Just wanted to say it was amazing to see such a breadth of skills shown and shared today. This evening, we have things from like you going into doing user research with people on the ground in charities, people who are volunteers, people who really could really make use of improving these systems for our whole communities, and that is fantastic. And I think that spirit of improving and bettering these systems for ourselves, for each other, for our wider community is really, really sensed here. And from everything from the way that you've considered how the accessibility of your pages are implemented, and to the feasibility of people on the ground, being able to be encouraged to use these things is absolutely fantastic. And it was so difficult to choose between your you can't give joint ninth, can we? To give everyone, but wanted to say huge thanks to all. Over.
Assalamu alaikum all. Just a few comments. Again, despite who we announced the winner is, it's very important to remember actually that we all got free pizza today. So we're gonna go home feeling like winners. Because that's what we're going to remember when you get home, actually. Now, again, the teams were really good. I've always maintained that of all the industries, I feel like the tech industry are the most generous with their time, the open source community, those who contribute in the tech industry. And specifically, even with this hackathon, I'm inspired about the products that have been built. And more importantly, even beyond the technology and the software, it was the ideas and the thoughts I felt that you really ideated on. I can really feel the thoughts and discussions within your teams coming through the presentations. So again, I don't know how we want to announce the winner and if there's going to be a grand reveal, but maybe Alamin can take the...
Unfortunately, we don't have like, grand reveal or like balloons and, fireworks. But yeah, who was the winner? Because I'll let you guys kind of discuss on myself. I felt too invested.
I forgot the team number, but I know the team name.
Okay, go on, shout it out. Both of you guys.
So we feel according to implementation and idea.
Do we have top three, by the way?
Oh, we have a top three.
Do we?
I mean, I've decided my second choice, but I don't think our second choice is the line.
That's fine. That's fine. We have honorable mentions. We'll mention them in a second.
So the winner, according to our consensus, is
drum rolls, please.
Volunteeria.
You have to say again now.
You said the drum rolls after.
Come on. We should be asking.
Should be Volunteeria.
Huh?
I don't think I have.
Sorry?
Could you repeat it again?
Okay, so I'll repeat again in case the very unlikely event that you did not hear anything. We feel like the winners of this hackathon should be Volunteeria. So round of applause.
Whoa. Amazing. Do you guys want to maybe share some why you picked them?
Sure. In terms of feasibility and practicality of it being used on the ground, and that is plug and play. You're not trying to reinvent people's systems, but it's really a system in order to ease that workflow for people volunteering and in the food banks, and can be used like on the get-go straight away. So that's really useful and inspiring.
Brilliant. So yeah, thanks guys. Honorable mentions. Do you want to mention a few names, a few teams that you really like the idea or what they did, how they gel together?
Sure.
Just so quickly, the Volunteeria again. The reason why I particularly took a liking to that is because the engineer inside me liked the implementation, matching the idea. They had a clear plan as to how to deal with the dropout volunteers. This is a big issue. We know food banks having more labor can always increase the amount of output they have. It's a kind of one-to-one relationship. However, honorable mention from me, I like the team feed. The need, again, the implementation was there, the idea was there, inventory management, and also that partnership with retailers can also prove to be pretty important and pretty productive in the long run.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And in terms of like the pantry people, definitely mention that it's a thing where it draws people in. People feel like they can trust that as a product and really go forwards with that. And really, there's all of the various different products. I feel like there are aspects of them that can really make a difference, and really encourage folks who are interested to reach out if they want any other further input to really bring them over the line and continue on with this, because we're really excited about all of these being used in the community too. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Yeah, so I echo the same words the other judges had. For me, my two kind of honorable mentions are Food to Bank, so Team 6 and Team 2. But just on that note, I think, of course, with hackathons, it is very, how do you say, yeah, that we have to pick a winner. It's obviously, we can't have 2-3 winners. We have to have one winner. But what I'm trying to say is we do offer support here at Deen Developers. So if you guys really liked your product, so I'm speaking directly to the teams here. If you guys want to continue working on your products and you like the teams, and also if you need support, do let us know. We do have some funding available. Of course, we have a community of over 1,100 people in our Slack from all kind of walks of life and all seniority and all professions. So please reach out to us, and we would love to see your products kind of continue, grow. Of course, you guys talked about the roadmaps that you have, the future plans. We hope you are able to also deliver on those things. But that's all from me. Tahsin, do you want to say a few more words? Do we have Ibrahim online?
Ibrahim, if you are here, make yourself known, please. I'm not sure he is here. It would have been nice to have a few words, but he'll find another way to speak to all of you, I'm sure. Nothing really for me to add. I think the judges have said everything. I'm sure you all enjoyed it. I hope you did. Hope you learned something. I hope the teams enjoyed the process over the last couple of days. Please do keep in touch. This applies to everyone. If you go onto our website, deendevelopers.com, you'll find ways to follow us on Twitter, join the community Slack channel. We'll have another hackathon later this year. We have an accelerated program planned as well. A couple more events, a careers month, a lot of things coming up. So do keep in touch. And nothing more really for me to add. Muntasir, Uzair, anything you want to share? Of course. Yeah, Slack and newsletter. If you join the Slack and you go on the website, you'll find ways to subscribe to the newsletter, which we send out occasionally. Again, thank you very much to Accurex. Can't emphasize that enough, giving up their weekends and the evenings. Would you like to share a few words before we close? Amazing. Thank you so much. In that case, we'll close. If you don't mind just making sure you put your plates back, take any rubbish with you, just to reduce the work of tidying up. Thank you again, and a round of applause for everyone.
Good way.